Let's talk about logos. On skateboards! So the new release of Revive Winter Skateboards is out now. So I designed 4 of the boards. I didn't do the pro boards this time. My buddy Ryan Chambers designed those. But I thought it'd be fun to talk about this board in particular because it's sort of this sentimental thing with all the logos that I have designed over the years working with Revive. All right, so I thought it'd be cool to sort of go through all of the logos and we'll look at where they came from on all of the boards here at the shrink quarters. So I started designing this board by pulling in all of the logos from the past boards. And for each series, we're always making new logos. We'll have new logos every year too that will sort of run throughout the entire year. And then for each series, we'll also do logos that fit with the design of whatever weird ideas we come up with. So in Illustrator right now, I've pulled together all of the logos I want to use, and then I'm just going to drag them into Photoshop one at a time and sort of figure out the layout of the board. Okay, so the very first logo I've pulled over is the original Lifeline. So that's in the middle of this board and it's up here on the wall. I actually didn't design this. Andy designed the original graphic. Every release there's a variation of the Lifeline graphic. Did this neon Lifeline that obviously isn't neon on here, but is a sort of neon sign here. There's boards like this one where it's still the same Lifeline graphic that Andy designed, we just put a different texture to it. So before I started designing all these boards, there was plenty of Revive boards before I got here. So Sam Fluharty and Justin Ellison both designed a bunch of awesome designs, but around the summer of 2015, these video game boards is where I started. So summer of 2015 was 16, 17, 18, 3.5 years ago is when I started. Is when I started working on the Revive stuff. Every season we come up with the stuff we're into and make boards based off of it. So that's our whole design process, is what we think is cool, we put on a board. So my very first boards were the video game inspired stuff, and that has sort of carried on every summer since I started designing the boards. You know, the original triple hearts from the very first board I designed, I had to get those in here. So even though it's not a Revive logo exactly, I had to put it on there. Logo right here, this Broken Bone logo, we did around Halloween time in 2015. And that's a good example of, we try to make things sort of seasonal. So every fall we'll do a spooky series of boards just because we all love Halloween here and that stuff is fun to draw. So in Photoshop here, I'm pulling in all of these logos and just trying to get the layout looking good. There's a lot of logos that are taller and skinnier or longer, because I knew that this board was going to be like sort of rough and almost looked like stickers had been put on the board. It's easy to overlap stuff and just rearrange and move everything around to just get it so all the logos are fitting into the shape of the board. All right, so jumping ahead to summer 2016, we started doing this Ames Bros series. You know, as we're sitting in the office trying to come up with ideas, we thought it would be super fun to have Brian as side-scrolling like 2D platform video game character, and of course we had to parody the classic logo. So there's a few sort of parodied logos here and down here at the bottom you might recognize. So this series here, this is a good example of when we make a logo and sort of take it across multiple seasons. So you can see like these 3 boards. I think this yellow one we did as a color update later in the year. But really this is just figuring out fun ways to write the word Revive. It's really as simple as that. So a lot of the old skateboard designs that Andy and I really connected with when we were growing up skating were the rough and real distressed and kind of crude looking logo boards. And so that's what we tried to do here with this sort of scratchy, this one got like really distressed down on the board. I don't know, that ended up being one of our favorite logos, so we took it across multiple decks. Moving down to this script logo, we started to make one logo and then stretch it across an entire year. So I think this is, when is this? Spring 2017, we made this script logo, and that went through the entirety of 2017. And so you can see, like, we make one big board that has the script logo, and then we'll put it on all the other designs for that series. And so that is the reason why this script logo and this logo, the Lifeline, and then this lightning logo that we'll look at in a second, why those are some of the bigger logos on this board. I wanted to have the designs that we ran a bunch of times be sort of bigger on this board, because they're not more important, but a bigger part of the brand, I guess. All right, let's go over here.
Okay.
So here's the script logo again. This was for the Take Over the World, the second Revive video. When this board came out is actually when we decided to move here to Cincinnati. That was summer of 2017, is that right?
I think so.
We do a lot of parody stuff. I've already talked about this a little bit, but it's really fun getting to repurpose some of my favorite logos from childhood as something that works for the brand, and this is one of those cases.
That was a great way of not saying the words.
So one thing that unfortunately doesn't get to make it on the board is whenever there is a new pro, which I think has only happened twice while I've been working for Revive. Whenever there's a new pro, we do a Lifeline version of their name as their first pro board. So this was a big honor to get to illustrate John Hill's first pro model board.
I did not know you guys did that.
Yeah. So we try to personalize it a little bit. Johnny Geiger's over there is like a cutout of a watermelon with his name as the Lifeline, and then John's is at the time he was a big LA dude, so it was like an LA sunset with his vlogging camera. Yeah, doesn't make it on here, but it's another fun sort of logo play that we get to do with the new pros. This is one logo that I sort of regret making super small. I just stacked 3 of them up and threw them in here because I kind of forgot that it was used on a bunch of boards. So I think this season we kind of interrupted the script logo and just did this, another example of a chunky, super distressed looking logo.
I love this one.
So in this series, it's sort of rounded out. This is the end of the script logo. We did a whole series of pro boards with it. This logo lasted a long, long time. Here is another logo that didn't make it onto the board. Some of the logos, there's just a little too much detail, and what makes this one cool is the gradient effect and the sort of neon 80s look to it, and it just didn't translate to a black and white logo super well, so I left it off. But this logo, the lightning logo, was our sort of 2018 version of the script. Yeah, we're in 2018.
That's what year it is.
What year is it? So that one is displayed pretty prominently on the board, and this one carries into even the current season. So the pro boards right now that Ryan made all incorporate this sort of lightning bolt logo. This is one that I made because I really like lightning bolts and thought it'd be just a cool logo to have, and it's ended up being one that we used through all of 2018. Like this one.
There it is.
So back to the summer graphics again, video game inspired. So we did a pixel art, like sort of 16-bit version of the lightning logo. So the slime Lifeline, I really like this board, but it didn't make it onto this new logo board, but this version of the slime did. So you can see right here, it's copied over. So that really catches us up to where we are in the history of Revive graphics.
And there's a cheeseburger.
So there are a few logos that are on this board that never made it onto the decks, but were the burger was actually a sticker pack. I think this graphic might have been a sticker or a t-shirt. We're constantly coming up with logo ideas, and each season I make a whole bunch of logos, whether they end up on the boards or on t-shirts. Like this is another example of something that just gets created for a sweatshirt, but isn't on any of the boards. And the last thing is this emblem logo. So I think this is, I don't know if Andy or it might have been Justin Ellison designed this emblem logo, but I wanted to have it big on there because it's another one of the sort of classic Revive branding things. So the lifeline and then this emblem logo shows up everywhere, and we do different versions of it. And then the last thing I want to talk about on this board is sort of this extra texture that I added in to the sides. There's the halftone pattern, and this sort of grid is actually part of that sort of 80s graphic that I couldn't figure out how to get in here. I put the grid in just as like a sort of nod to that logo that I really loved. But yeah, getting this texture and the little pattern stuff filled in is really just a way to fills up the board. And if you have too much negative space when there's so many elements on a board, it's distracting. So adding in some of the patterns like keeps your eyes focused on the logos. All right, so making this board was so much fun. It was a nice way to sort of go back and look at my history of designing for Revive. One of my favorite things about doing these boards is figuring out new ways of making the word Revive look cool and be different from what we've done in the past. So hopefully you guys think this board came out. I don't care what they think. I'm really happy with how this board came out, and I'm just psyched on having this sort of sentimental look back at making all of this.
Except that.
Except some of them that I didn't. If you have any questions about the process of making this board, Photoshop, there's a little bit of Illustrator at the beginning, but mostly done in Photoshop. Leave a comment below. I'll always answer questions. And yes, huge thank you to Sam behind the camera.
Is it showing me?
Sam rides for Revive and is my good friend, and I super appreciate him filming this video with me.
I'm crying.
Go check out his channel, the link's in the description below, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.